Hey there, Shopping Maniacs. You're listening to another episode of Shop Talk Show, podcast all about front-end web design development, maybe video games, maybe illustration this time. Hey, we got Chris Coyer with me. Hey, Chris.
Hi. Yeah, well, welcome to the show, Dave. Good to see you. I like the shirt. It feels pretty Austin-y.
Yeah, it's the weather's cooled off about 20 degrees in one day, and so
I see.
Like
you had to dig in the closet, find a long sleever,
dust off the sleeves. But hey, Chris, who do we have in the studio today? And I'm smelling a triple threat here, Chris. Who is it?
I call him the Jim Nielsen of the Pacific Northwest. It's Tyler Sticka, one of the big web's great bloggers and big thinkers. That's where I draw the connection. You're both very thoughtful bloggers and
I'm a
interesting
fan of Jim. I take
folks.
it as a compliment. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we've, of course, talked to your longtime business partner, Jason, a number of times.
I know that guy.
Buddies. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Just reviewed his next article draft right before joining this. So, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Ooh.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a banger. They always are over there at the Cloudflare
this one's wild. I don't want to give it away, but it's pretty wild.
You're going to have to... The 10-part responsive image series is going to be a tough one to beat.
It's not quite as practical. It's just a story. If you follow Jason, you may be aware of it, but it's just a story that I was aware of it when it was happening, and he finally did like a write-up of what happened, and it's still just, I'm like reading it.
No, I don't,
like,
but he's got a knack for that.
Happened.
I think of the one regularly, the one where like he couldn't like scroll down to the checkout button or something.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
He's like, I'm going to do the math on this one, and it's like more money than any of us have made,
Yeah.
Just 'cause the button,
Yeah, and Chipotle never responded to our
Shocking,
messages,
really.
So but
That's
I think
all right.
they're doing okay.
I as somebody who goes to Chipotle semi-regularly, sometimes I do think they don't want your money. Sometimes you're like, hi, I'm here. I'm standing here. You guys, you're going to the back again.
Got
Okay.
legal
They're so good
tender.
at the burrito rolling, though. Don't you think this could be like
be
like an experiment, like a thing that you pay to do, right? Where you contact this company. It's like a bougie thing, right? And they place you, because it's all about life experiences now that AI is ruining the world or whatever. So it's all about like seeing bands or like doing visceral experiences stuff. But this company, they let you work at Chipotle for just a day.
Sure.
So that you get like mad burrito rolling skills, because you're probably good at it by the end of the day, right? And then the next day they whisk you off to something else like that, where you're learning to make sushi or something. And like a week later, you have crazy skills.
This, of course, assumes that they are good at burrito rolling, which if my brother were on the podcast, my brother Tim, shout out to Tim, he's a project manager, and but he has this great rant about how they do not respect the structural integrity of the burrito at Chipotle, and how they overload it with rice, and they go too hard with the first ingredients you choose unless you really walk them through. I just want a bit of this, and then you get it, and it's just a mess.
Oh,
and
I
ends
see.
Up being
I'd like
a bowl
to hear
anyway.
I thought you were going to throw him under the bus for being a bad burrito roller, but he's dishing it
no.
out.
His standards
You're a
are
bad
higher
burrito
than
roller.
Chipotle is delivering. So.
I agree with your brother. I feel like I'm being fat profiled. They're like, this guy wants the biggest burrito possible.
Yeah.
Like I just show up and they're like, extra rice, huh, bud? Yeah, extra meat.
No,
We're going for it.
They don't even
2
ask you
scoops?
about sour cream.
No,
Like,
they
you're
just like,
they just put it on.
and then it's like splitting, and so
Yes.
my mother-in-law is the best burrito roller I've ever met. White lady from California. But she like, you can just take this breakfast burrito and shake it. Like you could like, like a shake weight. Just give it that.
Yeah.
I try it out. I'm like zero fear. I full trust that it's gonna hold.
That was my test for a new. I got a new coffee mug. I wanted one that could fit in my trucks. The cup holder, so it can't. So somebody.
I thought you got a burrito that fit in that was the test.
Oh, that's incredible! That
fits in the trucking mug. Okay,
burrito.
yeah. Keep going. Okay,
No,
coffee mug that fits in the truck.
they'll have like a great, like Yeti makes a nice insulated coffee mug, but then it's so short and it has a handle on it. You're like, who's using this? It's a to-go mug that it fits in nothing. Unbelievable. So whatever, I wire cuttered, which I feel like everybody knows is a wonderful resource, but is it ever? They have everything. You want, what's the best white noise machine? I don't even know, but they'll have an article for sure. You know, what a great
It's a
thing.
great starting point. I've noticed since they were sold that occasionally I'll see a recommendation, I'll look up reviews, and they'll go like, I think this might actually be a stinker, but generally speaking, I like my record player, and I like some other things that I've bought based on their recommendations. So
their to-go coffee mug review was spot on.
Excellent.
And I got it, and then you got to do the shake test. I feel like if you can put hot coffee and trust it upside down,
sure,
what a monster. That's a beautiful thing.
It's like the Dairy Queen Blizzard test.
Yeah, they still do
for
that.
hot coffee. Yeah. Just
that brings back some memories.
Well, we have Tyler on the show because, you emailed the other day because there's just a little side project thing.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like you kind of time budgeted a little bit for yourself, but maybe it was one of those projects you're like, this could use an update.
It got rediscovered by a segment of my social feed, and I forgot who it was. Whoever commented, boy, this looks like 2012, 2013, which was when I last updated it.
You got nerd sniped. You got nerd shame sniped.
And I couldn't argue. I'm like, yeah, that's when I released it, so it probably does. So I'm like, I should finish. I had kind of started a revamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it incorporates many of your talents. There's some illustration. Surely you did it, right? These little cute birds.
I guess I should say what we're talking about is called Colorpeek, and you can
.com.
Colorpeek.com. It's a side project. It's really, really simple. I just wanted a way to share colors with previews via a permalink. That's all it is. And every time I've tried to make it more than that, it becomes like there are so many color tools online, and so it sort of is just, I just wanted it to only do one thing, and that's the whole reason it exists.
It's an exercise in restraint. It's like fasting for building a website. Can I keep this to only 2 features? Do I have the willpower to do it?
Sure, yeah. And it's also, like, because it's so focused, it's a really good place to, the first time around I wanted to teach myself, I wasn't sure how, like, SPA frameworks worked at all, and this was like pre-React days, so I think I used Knockout.js or something like that for it, and so I taught myself how that stuff worked. And this time around, it doesn't use any framework. I just wanted to figure out what people were talking about when it came to vanilla web components and view transitions and a couple other things. It uses CSS relative colors in a few places, and so I just sort of it uses all like CSS nesting. Like there's like 3 classes in the whole thing, which I don't know if I like it, but it was a great chance to learn it because it's so simple. I really couldn't. It would be really hard to style myself into a corner. So,
you mean learn what? Learn nesting? Surely you've nested.
Like anything, when a feature like that goes from the preprocessors to the browser, there are always some changes that come along with it, usually positive. And so I just wanted a sense of, how does this actually work? How does it work with like the selectors and things and how they're interpreted as is and where? And the answer ended up being it pretty much just worked how I, expected it to. I know we've seen in some of our client work, we just had a project where we had to style some really gnarly third-party selectors, and nested CSS was problematic because the selectors were not quite as strict. But generally speaking, it works as designed, and they did a great job. And I actually, to be clear, I think the way it works is actually like a good idea. I just it just has some caveats when you're using it to override some nasty stuff. But anyway, so it was fun. And then at a certain point, I decided that I just wanted it to have a drawing on it because I love to draw, and then I decided another thing that I was trying to get over is I think a lot of people who make stuff for free online sometimes can feel icky about asking for money or providing a way for people to pay you back. And so I decided to get over that, even though it makes me itchy, and sell some shirts. And they're not going to take over the world or anything, but I can proudly say that the next few years of paying the domain fees are covered now. And so that's all I really was interested in.
Nice.
And it's nice. It's nice. So if you are working on a side project out there and you're nervous about having like a little Ko-Fi tip jar or making like a little shirt or something like that, like do it, because it turns out there are nice people, and if they really like what you're doing, they might just keep your costs low first of all, but it's nice to.
I love it.
Provide an avenue for that.
These little burbs are cute.
Thanks.
Cute little burbs. So
yeah, one of each color. And they work light mode and dark mode. Clutch, If you went too light with that yellow, you're screwed. But you got the black outlines too, so I feel like you could kind of do anything. But no contrast issues.
I was going to say, I think that's really cool. I think it's like, I'm with you. It's like, I mostly like hate it from a tax standpoint. Like,
sure.
I'm gonna have to like account for this. That stinks, So it's like, that's honestly like a huge stopper for me. But I really love this. I don't know. I've said it before, but I think it's one thing the Vue community does really well. It's like, sponsor me, sponsor this. Here's gold sponsors. Here's like on every project. And I feel like we should do that for people like us, or, tinkerers and stuff, make little apps. I think the like cool thought tech you have here is like, make cute birds, put them on a shirt. Like, like that's like a cool,
Have you ever gone to Emmet.io? This is like, it's like Vue with like no standards. Even though I like the Emmet guy, he's actually been nice and worked with us at CodePen to do some stuff. Their sponsors along the left is like casino.
Wow.
Casino. You're like, holy wow, that's a lot of casinos. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that,
Okay.
Does give like big SharePoint vibes, or like our shareware sites, like the but I don't know, dude, whatever.
There's definitely a line where you can cross from going to, this is fostering a community or encouraging community support, and this is just kind of not really asking, like accepting the furs and the limousines and not asking your mob spouse where the money. Don't talk to me about my business, sort of thing. And,
right.
But little Godfather stuff.
It's so I could see that, but I doubt a tool as niche as Colorpeek is in danger of that. It is the only side project I've ever had that I've had multiple people reach out to ask about acquiring it, which is really funny to me. But as soon as they realize there's nothing patentable, or
that's what the play is.
One of them.
I'm like,
that
team
was
sell.
the play.
Sell instant. Go for
it. Dave's big on take the money and run.
Take the money and run,
and then
baby.
The other one, it was more of like an acqui-hire situation where we had a nice lunch, but it was clear. I met with like the company's owner, and it was clear that we weren't simpatico, and so no ill will.
Wow.
It just was clear that we wouldn't work well together. So yeah, but
from colorpeek.com, people are like, we need this guy. It's a cool app, but like, I'm sure even you would agree, it's like you put some colors in and then it puts them in the URL and then you share them, right? Like, this is a weekend project for you, right? Like, I think it's beautifully done and exercises restraint and all this, but it's amazing to me that
I think it was because I presented it at a local event called Demolicious, which I guess had a big like startup and sort of VC attendance that I just wanted to show something cool on stage, and so I think that probably generated most of that interest, but. Which is, the lesson there is speak if you can.
That's a great lesson.
Yeah.
So where do people, because you have some kind of super fans of this thing too. Where do you have a sense of where it gets put? Like, I was kind of picturing, like, I don't know, when you do a little side work, some design work for some company, and you're like, you need to communicate amongst multiple people, like, please be careful with the colors. Just use these 5. Here's the URL. Bookmark it forever, or you put it in documentation or in a style guide or something. But the fact that it's URL based is like, seems valuable to me.
Yes, and I think that means that just anecdotally, I have a small amount of analytics, but I don't like to store anything too invasive. So I can see that there are a lot of different palettes with a small amount of views generally. So it's just a really long tail, which is nice to see. It means that people are using it in small groups, but using it for a lot of different stuff. But anecdotally, what I hear from people is that they use it for, we live in this world where we have awareness of design systems and tokens and all of these really elaborate ways to sort of systematize all of these sorts of decisions. But I think that there's this vast valley of collaborations that happen that don't either don't have that or don't really necessitate it. Like I made it when I was making games with my development partner, and we were working on palettes of different palette swaps, basically, for these different characters. And he just needed, I needed to send him 12 groups of 5 colors. And a couple of times, because the colors had to be translated to this weird format, they had shifted. So I started having to make images with the color values. So he had to give them the color values you could copy paste and then an image. At a certain point, I was like, okay, there has to be something that does this. And there were, but they all needed an account. And so I was just like, geez, this should be easy. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier, right? You paste these values into Slack or something like that, and you'll get a little preview.
That's a weird ride-along feature for Slack, isn't it? How it does color. It does color blaster things if you put a hex code in there.
A lot of code editors now will preview and stuff, so I don't know how essential it is, but I still hear from designers that are like, someone's like, shoot me over those colors real quick, and they're just like, well, I really want to make sure that he understands. I want them to know if they paste this in and it doesn't look like this shade of purple, something went wrong, and you need to tweak things. And so,
so often, right? It's like, sure, I'll just screenshot Figma or whatever.
Right, that can be dangerous. At the screen.
Yes,
you've already lost
color profiles.
You've already lost
stuff. Yeah,
color
if
fidelity.
one person reaches for the color picker, it's all
turns
over.
into a WebP at any point, your host, and then it just keeps degrading. It's photocopy of a photocopy after a while.
Yes,
and they're not gonna read. They're gonna go find a color picker and sample it. And
remember, I don't know, old school conferences we go to where people would be like, we had 16 blues in our app. You had 16 blues because there's a color picker.
What you gotta do is you gotta sample the thick part of the T.
Yes. If you
have, you get the text color.
You just arrange those 16 blues in order of lightness, and then for some reason suffix 100, 200, 300, 400, and then you're good. That's your system. You got it.
Yeah. It's just a simple system where you have 16 blues because everyone color sampled bad for 10 years, and that's your color system.
Is that what a senior developer is when your spine tingles when you find yourself doing that, or you have that you shouldn't be doing it? Because I feel like if you don't even think about it, if you just sample that thick ass T-bar and plop it into CSS and you'd feel nothing, you're still a junior developer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's senior developer actually
you need to feel
bad
Figma. About that.
Just goes the distance, goes the full distance. There's two things I want. So one or three actually I want to talk about. The state in the URL is awesome. There's a few apps that do this. I think Casadoo's had a couple, and that's so cool because you've ditched the account system. Was that a huge
Yeah, that was one of the requirements when I made it originally. Was I don't want to, because that was the whole thing. There were tools that you could do this with, but they all required you to have an account somewhere, and it just felt like, come on. I want it to be minimally have as few extra steps as pasting in I want it to be as easy as pasting the URLs into a chat bar, and so I thought, or the hex values rather, into a chat window. So I'm like, what can I do? Which is why it's just a text input. I prototyped a version with a color picker, and it was just so slow. And so I just went, and it's still on my wish list of things I might add. I might add an option of things ways that you can add colors, but it's a totally self-serving tool, and that I'm just okay, I was going to paste this into a, message input, but instead I want to just paste that into a input in Colorpeek and hit enter and then have a URL to share. A piece of feedback that's probably going to be the next thing I change is that folks are saying that I got some feedback that on small screens, and in certain browsers where they now obscure much of the URL bar, it is not immediately obvious to someone when they enter colors that the page is shareable as is. And we've broken, as an industry, we've sort of broken the convention of being able to rely on the URL so much that it's something that I take for granted, but that I understand someone not. So I probably will add back in an overt, I will probably make it like a permalink icon that Progressive enhances to use the share API and just do that. But just to let someone know, hey, this is it. This is what you share, because it does say simply share colors, so it should probably be a little more obvious. So
Arc, I'm gonna blame Arc, Atlas now.
Sure.
All these
For this URL obscuring thing? Because Safari was the first offender.
Oh yes,
but
Safari.
I've been using Dia a little bit reluctantly, just to, I don't know, try some stuff out.
Sure.
This is the nichest situation ever, right? But I have this. I'm like writing and working a lot with the CodePen 2.0 editor and converting an old pen to a new pen and just making super sure that every pen converts well, because there's a little data stuff. So there's a command line tool we're working on and all this, but there's an open command. So we have this, I can just put in the slug of any pen and it'll just open it in 2 tabs, the old and new, just in case we need a visual spot check beyond the fancy stuff we're doing.
Yeah.
And in Arc, this is like the little nichest feature ever. It opens in Little Arc. Have you seen that? Remember Little Arc? Little Arc, great feature, I think. But if you open 2 Little Arcs, Little Arc respects the last Little Arc that was open in position and size. But the second Little Arc that opens, it opens full screen. It's like a weird little bug if you open 2 back to back, and it's so obnoxious to me that but I'll take any excuse to play with another browser. I'm like, it's just a browser.
But
floozy,
Dia
as I
fixes
said,
it for you, huh?
Well, they do, because it just opens in 2 tabs then, and so. But yeah, I'm trying to look at the AI browsers a little bit, because mostly out of like, okay, there obviously something's going on here. There are so many.
There's such a bummer right now, though.
They really are.
I mean, I just wrote an article about my feelings on them, how disappointed I am.
I saw yours. It was pretty. You were clear about your bummerness of.
Just to summarize my feelings. My feelings is that they all feel very cynical to me right now, where they are all just take Chromium, route as much of its functionality through one product as we possibly can, and that to me is. Even if you're a proponent of AI, you should want more than that. And yeah. So anyway, I understand it's a starting point. Happy for that. I would be thrilled for that post to age like milk, please. Awesome if that happens. But as is, I was like, oh, if anyone, I mean, they are flush with cash to spend right now. Like, let's see. I went back to see how much of a bummer I was being. I went back to like some of the original Mozilla, like the Firebird and Phoenix and Firefox stuff when they announced it, and I went back to like Scott McCloud's Google Chrome comic, and then I went back to these, and I'm like, man, it's so, it's a different time now, and it definitely feels like, I don't know, there is this the weird reliance on the platform, but complete undermining of the platform at the same time is such an odd vibe. And I feel like, again, even if you're a proponent of AI, that doesn't feel like it necessarily has to be part of the equation. I feel like there's a way to use these as excuses to really lift the platform, but I don't get that at all.
Yeah, make the web better. I mean, I think Neil Dash did a great job of putting a finger on it when he Googled a Taylor Swift song or something and got basically a fake web page with no links on it.
Yes.
What are you doing? What?
Yeah.
Having a little, but it doesn't have to be that way, to your point.
No.
You can still do what you're good at and still help you get to websites that will always know more than you do.
Yeah. Like the Omnibox, as Chrome coined it, is almost the same as it was in 2008. So there's certainly room to do some new and interesting stuff. But an Omnibox that just routes to a different service than Google or whatever is not particularly interesting to me. But
no,
but
and
yeah.
Now the experiment is, let's see what they type in, and then we'll guess what they want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That maybe that's a little old manny, whatever. But I think what I'm trying to say is that if you type in something that it thinks an LLM would be better at answering, it will do that. And if it looks like a URL, it'll try to get you to that URL. And if it looks like something that probably should be a Google search or a general search engine search, it'll go there. But you don't really get to control that. It just does one of those things. And you're like,
I think that there's part of the issue for me might also be that I remember and I survived the whole wave of the pre-AI wave of, chatbots are going to be the next big thing. And it's like, well, a lot of people don't like, people like chatbots because they save them writing. So saying, great, so let's use them for everything. They like AI tools that save them the work of writing things. But then let's make the whole UI dependent on writing things instead of just, clicking buttons and links and things, I think is I suspect maybe a flawed premise. And I think that the way that I don't know, I would just love to see I feel like someone who's smart enough to work on these tools and is paid the enormous salaries that they are paid is smart enough to probably figure out a way to let's automate. How can we build automation into browsers in interesting ways, right? So I often, as someone who knows enough web code to be dangerous, I will often pop open dev tools and use some JavaScript to automate some dumb task, right? Like I need to grab every event that's on this calendar because we need to do whatever with it or something. And that feels like, okay, that could be an agent, but I also feel like, I would love like a Yahoo Pipes-esque UI in dev tools to perform certain common dev actions. I would love there to be, heck, I'd settle for things like, having Chromium's animation dev tools and Firefox's fonts tab and all of these things. Like there's so many tools like that. And then how can we take maybe some of the stuff Arc was experimenting with some of their like snippets and things, and then if you want an agent to be an option or to help you build that stuff, do it. But this thing of you have to describe like everything is such an odd sort of reductive. Like, are we really saying that if this were the future, then why have a GUI at all? Why not all? And I'm sure I know plenty of tech heads who probably don't like AI, but are like, yes, please, like give me just terminals and stuff like that. That's totally cool. I'm not bashing that. I'm just saying for general usage, this just feels like I think the worst case scenario is that these will just be like those browser toolbars you installed where they want you to use whatever Yahoo or product or something instead of the one that's built in, and eventually you'll just uninstall them from your family members' computers when you see them, and they'll fall out of fashion.
Yeah.
But the best case scenario is this is the earliest of the early, and somewhere along the line they get enough data that shows like, hey, there is more than one type of thinker. Not everyone is verbal in how they interact with this stuff. So we need to, if we actually want to make a compelling product, I mean, they could just continue to, I think they use incentives and stuff to do it right now is what they're experimenting with. And I guess that's one way to do it.
Is it that like essentially you get to use stuff that you wouldn't pay for is kind of free?
If you set Atlas as your default browser, you get chat GPT credits right now. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so they are incentivizing.
I think it's even more than that because I don't know. You probably know more than I do because you wrote the blog post and it forces you to actually learn some things. But in Atlas, they have this. I mean, just to back up a little bit, yeah, like I feel like the lamest thing these things can do is just, there's a chat button and it opens a sidebar and you chat in it. You're like, wow, amazing innovation team. What an obvious play at just like use the LLM that we're associated with or have business deals with or whatever, or we are that company. That's just so incredibly boring to me. I can't believe it even exists. And that's why I was so down on Dia, because it seemed like that's mostly what it was. I'm like, I'm sorry, you got rid of Arc, like the greatest browser ever, for a chat sidebar? What the flip, Yeah. Arc was doing, like you said, actually kind of interesting little baby experiments.
Yes.
And I remember at the time being like, I hate all of them, but at least they symbolize somebody thinking about what these tools could do. It would like rename your tabs and rename your downloads and rearrange stuff and close old tabs, and like it had all these little jobs that were actually more interesting than just like, is Chatbox way better. But now there is this like a little bit of a leap, whereas I don't know how many of them have this, but Atlas definitely does, where you can kind of of course you have to just chat, so that's the deal, but then it can do crap. So I was interested in trying to get it to do stuff on CodePen, you know, like can I get it to this agentic stuff that you mentioned? But the agent isn't like you think of in Cursor or something where it's doing a bunch of code. It's got its own cursor. It's clicking around. Yeah, and I had not seen that before, and I've seen some, even like Simon Willison was like, it's weird sparkle mode. It looks like a baby trying to use a computer. But I disagreed with him a little bit. Like, it's sure, maybe it's not amazing at it, but like that's more interesting to me. Super dangerous, because people have already proven that you can put a command or a prompt injection right on the website.
There's also this vibe of I don't know. Yeah. I'm a fan of in video games. I'm a big fan of Double Fine and Tim Schafer games, and he jokes. I think he even named an achievement after this. But people who just skip the dialogue and cutscenes, he says like the vibe is, let's get this good time over with. And I think that when I see stuff like that, I'm like, I mean, I try to think about the number of things I have to do in the browser that are repetitive tasks I could offload, and most of them are very niche, sort of like I said, I open up like the dev console, like I'm trying to think like, oh gosh, what a drag having to buy these things on my wish list. It's like that's like the good part of being online, is you get to, when I just get to like click buttons and things. I don't know, it's just there's an odd clearly a lot of people are excited about it. I don't think I'm the target audience, but I do dip into this stuff.
Well, what if it's, I mean, if it's not like go do something fun for me, but I was just chatting with somebody about this who needed to go get, you know, in the US here, they're requiring you get a real ID. Yes. I've seen this at airports. And their first thought was like, can you just do that? I want to go to a browser and I want to type in, do whatever I need to do to get my real ID ordered, which is probably the worst. That's like talking about shivers down my spine. I hate jobs like that. Oh, bleh.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of like, go figure it out. Google it, click what you need to click. You know me, just figure it out and do it.
It must be different.
Probably not there.
It must be different in that state, because you have here in Oregon, you had to go to a place to do it. I don't think there was a way to just order it, but yeah. But stuff like that, I mean,
something like that, yeah, just the worst task
in the world. But then it gets to a weird thing of where, if it's that important, like this is the thing I have to show to a government, do I really want to? It's a weird thing where a lot of the
dangerous,
things, it has to be something mundane, like unimportant enough that you would trust someone to do it for you, but also unpleasant enough that you wouldn't want to do it yourself. And that is, I just don't. I'm skeptical on how large the center of
what that window is. What's that window?
I would love to not have to do my taxes. We don't need AI for that. We just need new legislation for that. But if in a world where that never happens, I'd love it. I don't trust it to, though. So I feel like, it's like I use budgeting software. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But this goes back to Jeremy Keith wrote that great post, I think this week, about he wishes he could just like put his brain into cryo sleep and wake up when all this stuff had settled into being boring, because we've had clients where they are using AI and they aren't advertising it and no one even knows, because the way they're using it is it would be like advertising and our product uses MySQL under the hood. It's kind of like who cares, like what are you storing there? And it's like to shape recommendations engines or to make better suggestions or to do these things, and they don't even bother advertising it because that doesn't matter.
So we're all excited for things to shake out, right? To figure out what these things are good at. But that, like, I think it's okay that people want to go on the ride too. Like, it's fun to watch stuff shake out. It's fun to watch like how UIs happen in these browsers. Maybe for some people, maybe that haven't grown as old and cynical as we have, this is very exciting to them to see how that goes down. Maybe they can think of the next thing these browsers can do with the tools they have. Like, I can get that too. that this might be just straight up fun?
I want that so bad. And what I generally see is an industrialization of the sort of bad, like, install 3 NPM modules and kludge them together that has sort of plagued our industry for the last 10 to 15 years. And I'm seeing that automated, which isn't interesting to me. So my eyes are open. My business partner runs an AI event, and I try not to be, there's personally, as someone who writes a lot online and didn't give anyone permission to build a business on that, I start out from a place of being borderline a little ticked off at this stuff, and I have a lot of concerns about it. But just putting all that aside, I'm waiting to be impressed. I'm ready to be impressed, and I continue to watch it, and I continue to get appraised of it and everything. I'm not there yet, but hey, I'm open to the concept. I don't think it's going away, and I don't think it's. I know I have friends that I respect, and they're totally entitled to their opinion, that 100% write it off. But I also have friends who have, mobility issues and say, this is really helping me write. I have friends who work in the accessibility space and are saying that there are some really interesting things being done with summaries and alternative text and things. I think those can be overstated sometimes too, but I don't think this is crypto. But I also, crypto hasn't completely gone away.
It's not as obviously stupid as crypto, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Like I can see there's value here. The thing that is still a big question mark to me is whether or not that value is justifies the amount of attention and the amount of emphasis. And I suspect that in 10 years' time, a lot of this stuff is going to feel as silly as any other tech fad felt, and we'll settle into this stuff being like a small niche of consumer-facing features, and then a ton of behind-the-scenes database stuff. But
yeah, and maybe it doesn't help that tech people. To me, it's done AI. I mean, almost nothing for me outside of coding stuff. Like I've never used it to write an email. Like I don't know, it just hasn't. It seems like it's gotten in the way more than it's helped for everything except coding. It rips. It's so good. It's so freaking helpful. It's unbelievable to me how even when you know what you're doing, having it make me. It seems like anyway. Maybe I'm just under some spell, or it just seems like the type of work I've been doing lately is just really benefits from it. But it's like, holy crap. It's very impressive what it's able to do with code and quickly. I can do what's that?
I have colleagues that really enjoy it, and I have colleagues that don't. And in talking to folks, I think that there are certain mental models that I think it can help a lot with. And there is I get a sense that if someone's really open to pair programming as something that they really gel with, that it can really be helpful, because it's sort of like having a junior person to pair program with. And so I get that. That's not me at all. Like pair programming, I don't know if it's the ADHD or what, but pair programming kind of drives me nuts. Like I can do it for limited amounts of time, but I sort of want to go figure it out now. And I'm also, I tend to be very high velocity. Like I'm not slow with this stuff. So a lot of times it's faster for me to try the same thing in 10 different ways and then pick the one than to wait for the thing. To me, even just waiting for its response feels glacial. It feels like a nightmare. And then for me to be just sitting here just fidgeting while it then to give me a wrong answer. I'm like, why did I even do I remember when we
Tell
first
me you
started.
don't watch YouTube without saying you don't watch YouTube.
It's poison for ADHD brains, man.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're gonna take a long time. You took more than 3 seconds. We're now 10 tabs deep. We are walking. We went inside the house. We went to make a cup of coffee. I
remember I watched a talk on it, and we were testing some stuff with it at work, and I had this task. So we do a lot of, I should mention, I co-own Cloud4. We're a web design development agency. You should hire us. I I do a lot of prototyping in the browser, and we do a lot of like prototyping interactions for apps and stuff like that. And so a lot of times it's really helpful when prototyping to have sample data that isn't just lorem ipsum. And that is kind of a drag to make sometimes, because you just
through that like nobody's business. Absolutely. That's a great use case.
I remember that I was like, seems like a great use case, right? And so I had what seemed like a really obvious sort of need. And I remember I was trying to tell it to give me, I want X amount of records that match this format. And it gave me those records, but then some of them were wrong. So I'm like, can you fix these 3? Those don't match. And I'm like, great. So then they spit me back out the same thing, but missing those 3. So now it's not the number I asked for. And I was like, no, it still needs to be the number. You just need to make 3 more that are correct.
Frustrating.
And then it put back the old ones. And then I was doing all this stuff. I started complaining about this to coworkers because we were testing it out. And then a coworker said, hey, I Googled example data for blah.
Oh, they beat
and gave
you with
me
a
a
Google
GitHub
search?
repo that had exactly what I needed that someone had just already made and was already available. If I would have just searchat for it the old-fashioned way, I would have been done in 2 minutes. But instead, I lost 20 minutes trying to like negotiate with this chat bot to give me something that was already available. And that's I also have found that like the more I find that it's not as helpful for CSS as it is for other things. Like what I've taken away from it for CSS is that boy, the internet's bad at CSS in general, because some of the stuff, and we've tried different models and everything. But anyway, so to each their own. I'm not going to like judge.
Maybe
folks,
that's what it takes to get boring, though. In a way, is that it's partially like time needs to pass, but partially our brains need to change to know what's boring and what's not, and that your brain is now changed a little bit because you know that maybe they'll never get any better. Maybe the future is that if you ask it for tasks like that, that you're going to have to battle with it a little bit to get what you want, so that you just know that forever now. And the boring part is knowing which way should I go? Is there
which
like
battles
some
are worth fighting? Like that's the future. Is like,
well, and what I hope is that that's such a depressing way to think about like which battles are worth fighting. What I hope it is
it's a coworker who's like stateless and doesn't remember the last thing you told it.
Greg,
like,
or do
I'm a design
stateless Joe. Is he really the guy I need to bring this home?
My brain has a design hammer, and so I'm going to see every problem as a nail. And so, but think about this like as a designer. Like one of the things we think about a lot is that not everyone's built the same, and there are different paths to get to the same goal. So we talk about. I was just talking to a client about, okay, if you want to convert, this type of subscriber to being this type of subscriber or something like that in your service, let's route all the different pathways that someone could reasonably take there, and then make sure that we've got some support for that in there. And so right now, I feel like these tools are, I know that like proponents are going to say like, well, no, there's the agentic stuff and then there's this stuff, like, okay. But generally speaking, I feel like these are banking on there being one pathway. And again, just it doesn't need to be that way. Like I think that there are going to be people that this is intuitive for. There are going to be people that still want to click buttons more than they want to do this stuff. And there's going to be people who are fast anyway, and it's easier for them. Like they know where the docs are. Just don't. I don't need to wait for you to spit them back out to me. I have the docs up and stuff, and my velocity's high, and let's just do it. And it will be really nice when things settle enough to where they're just, whether they're consumer facing or on the back end. I think just like how we have a menu of options for databases, we have a menu of options for interfaces, we have a menu of options. Like it just needs to be an option, and we need to, but right now we're in the middle of that speculation boom where everyone's incentivized. Like every company, it's the shortcut to growth. So every company is saying, where can we inject it? And I get that. And like I said here, at Cloud4, we've helped. I'm lucky to have Megan, my business partner, who knows more about this stuff than I do. And that's great because obviously our customers have questions about it. And we have integrated it in ways that I feel good about, that I can sleep well at night knowing like that is very clearly like if you took AI out of the equation and just acknowledge, like appraise this as an interface, or appraise this as a content that is returning, like on its own merits. This is a good end result, and so it's possible to do that, I feel. But yeah, I'm super tired of the sort of
progressive enhancement AI. What do you think about that, Jeremy? Does that blow your mind?
Whoa, Jeremy's now a convert, a booster. He's been boosted.
Yeah.
No, I think that's like a very pragmatic approach. I think there's, I think like it is just full hype, right? So, and then I think it's easy to feel left out if you're like not getting it. But then there's even the split, right? There's like people who are like, this is vague but exciting technology and solves all my problems and it's everything I hoped and dreamed. And then there's people who are like, every time I type, it is very bad, you know? And so, like, you know.
Well, and where our customers are coming from, I'm seeing, is they're coming from, like, one of two places. They're coming from, can this help us save money? And so far, the answer is usually not really. We've looked into it for different customers, and generally speaking, like what they want to do is usually like on the bleeding edge of this stuff, and it either isn't reliable enough or it require human moderators and things. So those don't tend to go anywhere. But then the much bigger segment, I think, are people that are literally like, I'm hearing a lot about this stuff. Is there anywhere where this is relevant to our product? And so, of course...
like, I can't even think about it. You think about it and tell me.
Right, or just like, we hear it all the time. We're bombarded by it. We don't want to be left behind. And I completely empathize with that fear. Like, as an artist, I would love to just chuck this stuff out the window. Like, as an artist, I find it completely infuriating. There's nothing. But as a business person, as a designer of things that aren't for me, and as someone who, you know, I really think the best... When you work in client services or you work with different companies, I think the best end results come from when you have honest and open conversations with folks. And so I want to hear that they are like, we are genuinely curious about this, or we genuinely want to make sure we're leveraging everything we can. And yeah, so I try to keep an open mind about that stuff. I try to just look at it super pragmatically. It's like, just suspend the hype. What are your user-facing, consumer-facing problems, and is this a viable solution measured up against all the other solutions? And just consider it a boring technology, and that's how I think I've done work or shipped work that integrates it in a way that I can sleep well at night about. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I want to go back to Colorpeek for 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry, I'm switching gears. Hard shift. You said you built it with web components.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I heard you can't build apps with web components. They're not. That's something they don't do. I've heard that.
Sure. Yeah. It turns out you totally can. So I love web components, and we've been using them at Cloud4 for a while. And so for a while, I was kind of just my main role there is creative director. So I'm not the one who tends to. I write a lot of code that prototypes. I don't necessarily write. I write CSS that ships, but I don't. They shouldn't let me into the app logic and stuff. But what I will say is I always watch it and I'm like, oh, this seems very like readable. Like when the way things were structured felt a little bit more like Vue than JSX, and it made sense. And then what we notice is that our customers, like the developers on the customer side, gosh, they had an easy time. Like just including a JavaScript file and just wrapping something in a tag is like some of the most ergonomic, like easy to understand. Like if you can write a paragraph element, you can figure out how to implement these web components. I mean, it's a dream that way. But what really made it click for me was all the stuff about vanilla web components and detaching, because Shadow DOM comes with a lot of, it's powerful and it has a lot of really cool use cases, but it also is, I think, harder to understand than the idea of attach some JavaScript that to this element, you know, and in that way, it honestly scratched the same itch as back in the day when I'd make like jQuery plugins where you'd go like, oh, just query what you want and then do dot whatever your plugin name is, and it'll do whatever magic you want to do. That's how web components felt. And so I wanted to see, I knew I wanted to use that because I wanted to have, you know, an easy way to attach like actions to each like card in a list and things. But what was really, really cool was that you combine that with some of the newer things like mutation observers and abort controller. So I use the mutation observers to tell when I've deleted something, and that just lets you do really simple stuff like on click of a remove button, you just remove the element, and then your mutation observer can react to that. Which is really, really straightforward. And you have things like abort controllers where instead of having to it's so easy to get tangled in a bunch of events when you have a lot of things happening and you can make, many of something duplicate, and being able to just say, hey, when this web component disconnects, abort every single event that's attached to it automatically. I mean, these things, I didn't go into it necessarily saying I'm not using any framework. I knew I wanted to keep dependencies low. I didn't realize I'd be able to do it with only Color.js is the only front-end dependency in the whole thing. The rest of it I wrote completely by hand using web standard stuff, and that's it, which is why you combine that stuff with view transitions, and all of a sudden you're doing this stuff, and it's animating and it's doing all these things. So it's like it's technically a spa, but it's also just an index.html file with a JavaScript file loading into it, and that is really, really cool. And I will say that our experience so far at Cloud4 is that stuff is scaling better and better as this stuff improves and as our techniques get better. And we have one project right now where we did one of the projects using Vue.js, which is still great. Love Vue.js. But we decided for this other part of it where it had to act like a spa sometimes, but act like a traditional multi-page server rendered app other times because of the back end. And the team was kind of like, well, let's try web components instead for this, because there's a lot of cases with the multi-page apps where what we really want is we want to serve standard HTML and we want to enhance it along the way to make it spa-like in a few different places. And so this seems like a good way to attach it. And then we can level up and have some of them use Shadow DOM and some of these things. And so we went into it and it's going great. It's an application with 60 plus views, and it's web components have caused no issues on it whatsoever. It's wonderful.
See, well, your dream is alive there. Yeah, I mean, you're like shipping template elements down at the bottom there.
Yeah,
like you're like that's like bare metal. Like,
just
clone the contents of the
surprised
template
you didn't go for lit or the Microsoft one or fast.
Yeah,
or anything?
Is it? I'm going to forget their name. I'm so sorry. Is it David Bushell? Is it David?
David. Is there an N in his name?
There is a David Bushnell.
Yeah,
Bushnell. Yeah, I am so sorry if I'm butchering their name. Bushnell. Thank you. They had some really great vanilla web component tips, and then there are some other really great. I think is it David Darns? A lot of Davids in this space apparently. Dave Rupert, David Darns. David Bushnell.
You get free pass if you go. Yeah. Oh,
but
Bushel,
they had
sorry. No N.
Okay,
sorry.
it's Bushel.
Right. Bushel.
But they all have really great web component resources, and I noticed that a lot of them were just, using like template elements, and the code seemed like really lean and easy to understand. And so for me, I'm the one building, like more and more the older I get, like the side projects that survive are the ones that the maintenance is almost non-existent. And so this is barely more than an index.html file. The only thing is I think I threw in parcel at the end to like bundle the code, because I just did a comparison and found that the savings were going to be significant enough, and it like hashes some URLs so I can cache bust easily. But I don't even know if I love
huge.
that.
I feel like, oh really, the cache busting?
I like the cache busting. But Parcel, it's pretty opinionated, and I had to I actually ended up turning off some of its optimizations and just running stuff through
your
SWC.
JavaScript is minimized, but this isn't.
Yeah, because it uses the Lightning CSS optimizer, which basically has no options, and so I found that I just had to turn it off because it was my problem with optimizers in general is that they tend to especially on the CSS side, anything they don't understand, they tend to just throw away. So
I found like 3 bugs in Lightning over time. I both like it, and I'm like, ugh, you can fight it in a sucky way.
But for the JavaScript, the savings for optimizing it were substantial, so I went ahead and added SWC for that. But for the CSS, it was like saving like half a kilobyte. So I was like, why am I bothering? So the CSS is combined, but that's it. It's not optimized at all. It's just kind of what I wrote. which if you see that and you recoil at the lack of comments, hey, I'm the only one maintaining this. I comment the heck out of the stuff that I share stuff with, but I get everything that's going on here. I'm using variable names that make sense to me.
Well, yeah, there's some, you know what you're doing though. Look at these. There's a couple of lines in here like, ooh, baby.
right, because this was the nesting I was talking about. I'm usually, I've been a BEM and BEM-like CSS class person forever. I mean, I remember being in John Snook's, Smack's workshop, getting my free book and learning about why you need to keep your selectors simple and everything. But, just like with the AI stuff we were talking about earlier, you got to keep an open mind and you got to question your assumptions. And something I will say, if I can just get on a fun, positive soapbox for a second, I've always maintained that there's been this undercurrent of, web standards are a problem that need to be fixed, especially in the CSS space. And I remember, Chris, I think it was a CSS Tricks thing you did years and years ago where you did a survey of how many people contribute to your CSS. And that's obviously not a perfect scientific sample, but you would imagine that if someone is working on some hardcore corporate enterprise level CSS, they'd probably follow a resource like that. And generally speaking, it was one or two people. And I've always maintained the design of CSS works really, really well. Like when I taught college classes in this stuff, I never lost people over CSS. I lost people over JavaScript all the time. But over CSS, I think it's an intuitive way to set it up. And what I love is all these new standards, the nesting and the container queries and the stuff that's coming up with like scope CSS and stuff. It sort of is allowing you to take the kind of, I feel less of an urge to protect myself from the dangers of unmaintainable CSS, because now a lot of times you can solve those by wrapping your gnarly selector in a where or an is, or adopting some of these new tools. And in some ways it's like we've never had abstractions of the web standards be more prevalent, but it's odd because also I feel like web standards has never been more scalable than they are right now, like as designed. And there's still ways for things to change, but I don't know, it's a very exciting time. And I think especially when you end up looking at, when we deliver something with web components compared to like delivering something with like an old school framework, I mean, it's just night and day difference in terms of speed, not in terms of load times, everything. And so to be able to do that with fewer and fewer and fewer caveats about maintainability and scalability and ergonomics is just, it's really a joy. So if you can, these are the things that ChatGPT is probably not going to suggest to you because it's all very new stuff, but you can use it today. And so this was just a fun excuse for me to try out a lot of the things that my team has already been doing for like a year or two. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it can't. It's a hot take that I don't think LLMs will ever be good at CSS. Like the design of it can't be done. It's not something it can reason out in the same way it can reason out a regex or even Tailwind style CSS can be reasoned out because it's like one-to-one. Like this thing does this job. You can't do that in CSS. You can't. I don't think an LLM can look at what's going on here and map it to HTML that it applies to and really get it because it's too spiderwebby. It's like it only applies sometimes and to some elements under different circumstances. It's like the brain model for CSS and HTML is like not. It's just a guess because I don't really understand how LLMs work. I don't think anybody does actually. Isn't that part of the magic of it?
Kind of,
if they want to use it for detecting cancer, I sure as heck hope it can understand CSS at a certain point. But
that's true because it's trying to understand patterns. And
on the other hand, I still don't think any design tools have a very good CSS pipeline or even a mental model that maps to this stuff very well, which is why we still do a lot of prototyping in browser. And they have enormously talented people contributing to this stuff for years and years. Part of that is probably that I don't think there's a lot of demand from your average designer, so I'm sure that's part of it. But part of it could be that these are very tough problems to solve unless you're in the weeds. But that's just another reason why I love that the more intuitive, less sort of what a system thinking, like you don't need to like read this 20-page class naming guideline necessarily to write good CSS these days. You can actually, there is a more, or that stuff's helpful to know, I think, and helpful to understand. But I think there is, before it felt like, okay, learn CSS. Okay, now throw that away and learn to write CSS in a way that's not going to make you, bash your head in. And I feel like now it's more like, okay, learn CSS. Great. Now learn a little bit more. Now learn a little bit more. Oh, maybe you should, and it feels like a more organic path for folks to learn. Anyway, that's just, maybe I'm optimistic about it, but.
It is this, like, I think, back to Jeremy Keith, I think he had like a,
Jeremy.
simple, not simplistic, I think was the post or the saying he used, but it was just kind of this like notion that like CSS is a simple language. Key value, key color purple, header color purple, and you put a header on the page, it's purple, and then you put 2 headers, they're both purple. Wow, what a cost savings. We did that so we didn't have to, what an amazing thing. We did styled 2 things with 1 thing. And like the rules are simple, but just what you can do with it is actually pretty amazing. Like you can like orchestrate a whole sort of like styling system, and just through a few properties or a few hooks, few tools in the kit. So
for real. And that was going back to when I taught students, I would sort of make them learn semantic HTML and then add CSS, but I would always save something, whether it's a transition or whether like there are certain things you could do just to spark imagination, because it's pretty, I went through a stage of being a little bit of a curmudgeon about like CSS illustrations and things like that really stretched the language, because I was coming out of, I felt hurt by icon fonts for a while there, and so I think I became
personal assault.
I tried on being real stodgy about that, and thankfully folks like Lynn Fisher snapped me out of it, which thank you. But now I love that stuff, because it is this sort of, it's like seeing people build working computers in Minecraft, or seeing folks make really incredible things in any of these platforms. And so it's really, really cool. And I think that, people who resist it, it's like they're trying to learn how to play Tetris by starting on level 99 or something like that. It's like, no, this is easy to learn, difficult to master. Sure, all the web standards are difficult. I'd argue even HTML, like using it correctly, requires a understanding of roles and headings and stuff like that. But
a lot of secrets in there.
A lot of secrets, yeah. Anywho.
Well, cool. I do think we are at time, unfortunately. This is too bad. I'm having fun.
That flew by.
But triple threat, Tyler Sticka. Reading or writing, drawing, illustrating, design, and code. How can people follow you and give you money if they are not giving you money already? Yeah,
I co-own Cloud4, cloud4.com, spelled out CLOUDFOUR.com. Hope I said that right. And we take client work. We help folks do web design development. Our sweet spot right now is helping folks who are building web applications. Especially, there's a huge valley out there of legacy apps and like B2B type apps that aren't maybe on all the portfolio sites, but have like real interesting and unique needs. So those are a blast. I love those projects. So rewarding to work on. So you can find my whole team there. I also have a personal site that's just my name, tylersticka.com, and that's if you only want to follow my stuff, I link to my Cloud4 articles there, but also I will sometimes blog about organizing my comic book collection or modding game consoles and complaining about web browsers and things of that sort. And you can follow me on Mastodon and Blue Sky. If you just search me, I should come up on either.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and I will give your blog, both the Cloud4 blog and your blog, a hearty recommendation.
Oh, thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate
good stuff.
It.
And but thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And then thank you, dear listener, for downloading this in your podcatcher. Matt Dom, Abushka, and Chris. You got anything else you'd like to say?
No,
Babadoo.